right, so I wrote a fan fiction story for the first time in several years actually. Well, I started writing one. The most recent one I started writing was for Star Wars. But I did not get very far. I conceptualized a lot of it, but then by the time I finally got to writing, I wrote a little bit and then my brain moved on. And I'd also started writing one a few years previous to that about Dumbledore and Grindelwald. I tried to keep it canon, actually. That was like, it was my, attempt to fill in the blanks, but, you know, um, but I got somewhat through it and then never finished it. But this one is only like 800 words. Um, so, yeah, it's finished. And I've decided to read it to myself for no reason other than to make me happy. And yeah, it. I was upset before, but now that this is out in the world to be read by 3 people, I do feel better. Um, yeah, I'm going to read it. Basically, it replaces Act 4, Scene 14 in Cursed Child, which is it is the second to last scene right before Harry and Albus go take a walk. It's the scene where in the actual play they're in Hogwarts and Scorpius has just asked out Rose unsuccessfully, and they're talking a little bit, and they do hug again. But they hug in this too, so um, so that's and this scene is it's been in my head for a while in several different ways. Um, but I do like how it turned out. Now I'm sure a year from now I'll look back on it and cringe, but what else is new? Right now I appreciate it and enjoy it, and I'm sure some of the internet will too that gets to see it. My hope is that it will like go viral, obviously, but anyway. So I called it, and I hate the title because it's like really, really corny, but on a tight schedule, I needed to publish it. I needed to give it a title, so I called it "Where Your Heart Lives." I already said it's really corny. Okay. Act 4, Scene 14. Hogwarts, classroom. The students sit at desks facing the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher in front. She calls the class to order. Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. I trust you've all been practicing Patronuses. I can't even read my own thing. Has anyone here been able to produce a full Patronus yet? The class shake their heads. Not to worry, it is quite advanced. Shield forms can be protective as well, but they do not have the full power. With practice, you should all get it in time. The important thing is the strength of the memory you choose. Let's have some practice now. Mr. Potter, you first. Albus, a bit shyly, joins her at the front. Go on now. Albus. Expecto Patronum. A white mist comes from his wand. Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. It's all right. Try again. Concentrate. Albus. Expecto Patronum. Again, white mist, but perhaps brighter this time. Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. You're almost there. I know you are. Think, Albus. What's the happiest you've ever felt? You're not here in this classroom. You're there, in that moment. You feel what you felt then, hear what you heard, smell what you smelled. Every fiber of your being is back there in that happiest of times. Albus nods. He looks at Scorpius, who gives him an encouraging smile. Albus, not taking his eyes off Scorpius. Expecto Patronum. A bright white scorpion bursts forth from his wand. Oh, I accidentally closed out a read review. A bright white scorpion bursts forth from his wand and scuttles across the room. The class gasp in surprise. A few students mutter amongst themselves, torn between surprised and impressed. Scorpius did not gasp out or say a word. Slowly, his eyes on Albus, he rises from his chair and walks toward him. As he does, the lights dim and 2 spotlights appear on Albus and Scorpius. When Scorpius meets Albus at the front, their spotlights join, leaving the rest of the stage shrouded in darkness. They are the only 2 in the room, or they might as well be. Scorpius hugs Albus. Not as he had in the lake nor any other time. This is lingering, intimate. Scorpius. I love you, Albus. Albus, you do? They break the hug but do not break apart. Scorpius remains holding Albus's hands. Scorpius, all sincerity. Yes. Albus, I love you. He nods toward the scorpion Patronus. Obviously. Scorpius gives a soft laugh. But I thought... Rose. Haven't you always loved Rose? Scorpius, a little uncomfortable. I suppose I had a schoolboy crush on Rose, for a bit. But when I thought about it... Albus, I saw you talking to Delphi back before we knew the truth about her, and I was jealous, I know I was. And when I was in that awful world where Voldemort was in charge and you were gone, Albus squeezes Scorpius's hands. Rose has many great qualities about her that I admire, but she was rude to me from that first day while you reached out to me. For 4 years, she ignored me and you embraced me. Albus, you were the one I thought of when I had to get past the Dementors with Snape. It's always been you. It will always be you. Albus, it's always been you for me too. Day one. And you I thought of just now to make the Patronus. Both boys look towards the Patronus. Scorpius smiles at it. My dad always said, he talks about Patronuses a lot, that they either take the form of your personality or where your heart lives. My grandfather James, he was a good man but very proud, and his stag reflected that. And Dad's Patronus is a stag because even though his parents were dead, his heart was with them. His mum's Patronus was a doe to match James, and Snape's was a doe for hers. Teddy Lupin's mother even had her Patronus change after she fell in love with his father to match him. And Aunt Hermione has an otter. Uncle Ron grew up in Ottery St. Catchpole. She says that's just coincidence, but Dad says it's not. It's because her heart lives with him. And my heart. I know, it's a little cheesy, but hey, they've had other... In the actual play, they've had lines that are just as cheesy, you have to admit. Scorpius leans in towards Albus. But before we get there, the lights come back on, we're still in a full classroom, and the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher interrupts, making them both jump. Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Boys. Still holding hands, they grin sheepishly at the floor. Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Understanding. As touching as this is, we are in the middle of a lesson. Albus, that was a wonderful Patronus and some good background information on Patronus forms. But now, if you could take your seat, Mr. Malfoy can have his turn. They don't want to let go, but they do. Each extends his arm so their fingers let go at the last possible moment before Albus takes his seat. Albus, we'll talk later? Scorpius, definitely. So that was my little thing. It was fun to make it in the form of a play. Because see, that's how I had it in my head too, which is interesting. Because even when I was trying not to, like, my thinking about them, you know, I mean, I always do that with fictional characters. I do fan fiction in my head, even if I don't write it. But yeah, so everything I've thought about them in my head was always in play format, instead of just a normal scene. So, but I liked that I was able to utilize, like, the, you know, like lights, you know, spotlights, and yeah, when I imagine the Patronus, I imagine, you know, I have no idea how they would do that. But I mean, I've heard that the effects were amazing. I mean, how could they not be with magic? And I mean, today's technology, like, it's crazy what they can do. I really would love to see it. You know, yeah, I imagine, you know, they're using the lights and technology or whatever to make the Patronus. So, I don't know, that was fun, and I'm at peace now. I mean, there's still the whole Delphi thing, and still my confusion over using Voldemort's name constantly. I mean, you know, I have, you know, critiques about it still. This was just my biggest one, obviously, and, but now, I mean, it's comforting to know that the internet on the whole... No! She tried to eat my cord. I don't care if she plays with her toys and eats her toys, but my computer cord is not a toy to be eaten. I have no idea what I was talking about. This, writing this has made me feel better about the whole thing, and the fact that much of the internet seems to agree with me. Of course, the parts of the internet that I've looked at are the parts that would agree with me, but lots of, I mean, most of the conversations I've read about Cursed Child have mentioned Scorpius and Albus, as a couple. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching, even though it's just bees watching, but thank you for not making this whole thing a waste of time.